By Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, growing numbers. Katunayaka becomes the 19th police division in the Gampaha district under curfew as Minuwangoda cluster becomes country's largest so far. National security chaos. Former PM Ranil Wickremesinghe says hijab ban would have stopped Muslim community intel, while ex-Defence Secretary Hemasiri accuses Sirisena of jumping ship. Hide and seek. MP Rishad Badiuddin on the run as 6 police teams searched the countryside to no avail. Meanwhile, 2 drivers arrested with weapons. A healthy partnership. China rubbishes US debt trap allegations by citing contributions to Sri Lanka's infrastructure construction and development. All this and much more coming up on this Wednesday, the 14th of October 2020.
නව sunlight sakura. Then දිකුකල් පවතින sakura මල් සුවඳින්.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando. In your top story tonight, quarantine curfew will be imposed in the Katunayaka police area with effect from 5 a.m. tomorrow as the COVID-19 cluster emerging from Minuwangoda continues to grow. Accordingly, 19 police areas in Gampaha will now be under curfew under provisions of the Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance. Meanwhile, it was also confirmed today that a student from Dulapitiya who sat for the GCE advanced level examination has been infected with the coronavirus. The Commissioner General of Examination stated that the student has been referred to the Iranavala hospital and has been provided with the opportunity to sit the examination in hospital. As a result of the fresh cases, the Minuwangoda cluster has now crossed the 1,700 mark, surpassing the country's imported cases.
The number of infections resulting from the Minuwangoda cluster, the country's biggest so far, has now risen to 1,721. A total of 194 infections were reported yesterday, with 80 of them detected at quarantine centres and 114 individuals in self-quarantine. Meanwhile, during the course of today, 130 more people have tested positive for the virus. COVID-19 infections started to emerge from the Minuwangoda COVID-19 cluster on the 4th of October, making it the 10th day today. Sri Lanka saw its highest single-day spike on the 6th of October with 509 reported cases. Barring the Navy and the Kandakadu cluster, the highest number of cases reported in the country so far was from among repatriated Sri Lankans, with a high of 1,534. The number of cases reported from the Minuwangoda cluster now exceeds that number. In such a backdrop, Sri Lanka surged past the 5,000 case mark to stand at 5,169, out of which active cases are 1,799. Further, 3,328 people have now returned to their daily lives following complete recoveries. Meanwhile, Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva stated today that if an individual has been referred for a PCR test, all associates of that individual must immediately begin self-quarantine for 14 days.
ඔබගේ PCR පරීක්ෂණයක් කරලා තිබෙනවා නම් ඔබ නැවතත් පවුලේ කවුරු හරිව PCR පරීක්ෂණයට භාජනය කරලා තිබෙනවා නම් ඔබගේ වගකීමක් වෙනවා ඔබ වහාම ස්වාග් නිරෝධායෙන් ලක් වෙන්න. මොකද හොඳ උදාහරණයක් මේකට කියන්න පුළුවන්. මිනුවන්ගොඩ කැම්මහලේ සේවයේ නියුතු පෙම්වතා කොවිඩ් ආසාදනය වෙලා තීද්දි පළවෙනි දවසේ අපිම හඹාගෙන ගියා කටුනායක කර්මාන්ත ශාලාවක පෙම්වතිය ඒ ස්ථානයේ ගිහිල්ලා රැකියාව කරන. ඒක අපි ගිහිල්ලා කියද්දී ඔබ දන්නවා නේද ඔබගේ මේ පුද්ගලයාට මේ ආසාදිනලා තියෙන ඔව් මං දන්නවා නමුත් මම මේ ස්ථානට ආවයි කියපු තත්ත්වෙකුත්. මේ වගේ වුණාම ඒ ආයතනය ඊයේ දිනේදී අපි දැක්කා 17 දෙනෙක් පමණ කොවිඩ් ආසාදනය වෙලා තිබෙනවා. ඉතින් මෙවැනි තත්ත්ව වෙන්න හොඳ නැහැ. අපි වගකීමකින් කටයුතු කළ යුතුව තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, a driver, conductor and the owner of an expressway bus plying from Matugama to Colombo have been infected with the virus. The 3 infected individuals are residents of the Badugama, Ovitigala and Yatadola areas. Later, a nurse working at the Colombo National Hospital who travelled in the same bus tested positive for the virus. She is a resident of the Valalavita area in Matugama. Elsewhere, an employee of a garment factory located in the Katunayaka Free Trade Zone tested positive for COVID-19 while being quarantined in Aludgama. He was then referred to the Valikanda Hospital for further treatment. With the detection of 5 new cases, the number of infections emerging from the Katunayaka Free Trade Zone increased to 72. In the meantime, a student from Diulapitiya who is sitting for the GCE Advanced Level Examination this year has been diagnosed with COVID-19. The student's sister, who is an employee at the Minuangoda apparel factory, was recently diagnosed with the virus. Accordingly, the student was subjected to a PCR test and the report came back positive on the first day of the examination. The Commissioner General of Examinations said that the student has now been referred to the Iranavilla Hospital and has been provided with the opportunity to sit the examination in hospital. The Public Health Inspector in charge of the area stated that PCR tests will be conducted on 20 other students who sat for the examination with the patient. Elsewhere in Piliyandala, the mother of a member of the clergy at a temple in Polhena, Madapatha, has been infected with the virus. She is an employee at a garment factory located in the Katunayaka Free Trade Zone. She had arrived at the temple on the 2nd of October. She was diagnosed COVID positive on Saturday the 10th after she was hospitalized due to health complications. The incident has led to the self-isolation of 75 members of the clergy attached to the temple, as well as 10 others including construction workers at the temple premises. In the latest development on the curfew situation in the country, the Katunayaka police area has been placed under quarantine curfew with effect from 5 am tomorrow. This is the 19th Gampaha district police area to come under curfew as of present. Katunayaka Free Trade Zone employees can meanwhile use their office identity cards as curfew passes to enter the zone after verifying their employment details during the curfew.
Safeguard hand sanitizer. Navatama nishpadana pela neerogimat diviyakata.
The National Transport Commission has set up a public complaints hotline that will crack down on health and safety violations on passenger buses such as overcrowding and no adherence to basic virus precautions. Minister of Transportation Gamini Lukuge stated that both fines and temporary route permit cancellations will be used to ensure better safety practices on public transportation. Meanwhile, State Minister Dilum Amunugama stated that driving licenses requiring renewal will receive a gazetted 3-month validity extension from the date of expiry. A centre to collect information on the passenger transport buses in addition to a public complaints hotline were launched at the National Transport Commission today. Passengers can now register complaints on health and safety rule breaking on bus routes via 1955.
වායු සමනය කරන බස් වලට ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා. ඒ බස් වලට මගින් ගොඩ වෙන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා අර උණ බලන යන්ත්‍රණයක් පාවිච්චි කරලා හැමෝම උණ බලලා ඇතුල් කරන්න කියලා ඕනෑම තැනක කෙනෙකුට මේ සෙන්ටර් එකට කතා කරලා පණිවුඩයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් සක්කටයුතු දෙයක් සිද්ධ වෙනවා නම් අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් අපිට මැදිහත් වෙලා ඒකට මැදිහත් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. සීට් ගානට වැඩි පටවනවා නම් ඒකත් අපිට දන්නන්න පුළුවන් අපිට පරීක්ෂා කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන්. අපේ තියෙන හයිවේ බස් සියල්ලම මොනිටර් කරලා තියෙන්නේ GPS තාක්ෂණය යටතේ.
දැන් මේ කියන කාරණා බස් රියදුරෝ මේ අනුගමනය කරයිද? ඕනෑම සාමාන්‍ය මගියෙකුට ඒගොල්ලෝ අනුගමනය කරන්නේ නැත්නම් වහාම අපිට දන්නන්න පුළුවන්. දඩ නිකුත් කිරීමක් කරන්න පුළුවන්, රූට් පර්මිට් එක අවලංගු කරන්න පුළුවන්, తాවකාලිකව සස්පෙන්ඩ් කරන්න පුළුවන්. මේ නිරෝධායන නීති රීති කඩලා තියෙනවා නම් අපිට නිරෝධන පනත අනුව ක්‍රියා කරන්න. මේ වෙනකොට RMB එක වහලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට දැන් මේ කල්ලිකුත්වන රියදුරු බලපත්‍ර තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් මොකද්ද ගන්න උන්ට දෙන්න තියෙන පණිවිඩය මොකද්ද?
අපි කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ රියදුරු බලපත්‍රයේ ඔන්ලයින් ක්‍රමයක් ඕන වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි ගැසට් නිවේදනය කරා පොලිසියට දැනුම් දීමක් කරනවා. රියදුරු බලපත්‍රය අවලංගු වූ දින සිට ඉදිරියට මාස 3ක් මේක වළංගු වෙනවා කියන කාරණේ ඩ්‍රයිවිං ලයිසන් එක. එතකොට වාහනවල ආදායම් බලපත්‍රය ඒක ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම් කාර්යාලය හරහා ඔන්ලයින් ගන්න කොහොමත් කරගැනීමේ හැකියාව තියෙනවා.
In the meantime, a discussion on measures to control the spread of COVID-19 in the Kegol district worked off this morning under the patronage of Sabaragamu Province Governor Tikiri Kobbakaduwa.
චෝදනාවක් තියෙනවා ගම්පහ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ අය කෑගල් දිස්ත්‍රික්කයට ඇවිල්ලා මගුල් ගෙවල් පවත්වනවා උත්සව සම්භාවන පවත්වනවා මේකට මොකද කරන්නේ?
එය වහාම නවත්වීම සඳහා අපි දැනට පොලිසියට සහ පළාත් පාලන ආයතන වලට සහ මහජන සෞඛ්‍ය නිලධාරීන්ට උපදෙස් දුන්නා.
වාහන බලපත්‍ර යම් සීමාවක් කරාද?
ඔව් අපි සබරගම පළාතේ සති දෙකක් යනකම් වාහන බලපත්‍ර ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා නැවැත්වීමට කටයුතු කරුවා.
Meanwhile, the National Hospital in Colombo has taken measures to limit the number of patients arriving at the hospital each day. Accordingly, the public can now contact the cardiology clinic on 011 361 8727, 011 361 8728, 011 361 8736, 011 361 8730, and 011 361 8735 for treatment appointments. Furthermore, the neurosurgical clinic can be contacted on 011 361 8754 and the nephrology clinic on 011 361 8715. Information on the contact numbers of other clinics can be obtained via our website www.AdaDerana.lk. Allegations by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo of the Belt and Road Initiative being a debt trap set by China to impose control were brushed off by the spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs at a media briefing yesterday. Official ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijiang stated that BRI partners have praised the initiative, including President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who publicly refuted such claims earlier this month, adding that he is yet to see a partner country falling into any such debt trap through mutual cooperation.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian yesterday responded to comments by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, calling Chinese investment through the Belt and Road Initiative a debt trap that nations need to be alert to. In the statement posted on the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, he stated that so far no Belt and Road partnership has fallen into any such debt trap through their mutual cooperation. Zhao added that heads of state have spoken highly of the Belt and Road Initiative, the most recent being President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who on 9th October publicly refuted claims of Chinese control through a debt trap. He also stated that China has made great contributions to Sri Lanka's infrastructure construction and development, and that Sri Lanka is willing to make every effort to promote the joint construction of the key cooperation projects under the Belt and Road Initiative. These include the comprehensive development of the Colombo port city and the Hambantota port so as to raise mutually beneficial cooperation between the two countries to a higher level and better benefit their people. Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao stated that the Belt and Road Initiative cooperation adheres to the principle of extensive consultation, joint contribution and shared benefits, and is advanced through open, green and clean approaches aiming to achieve high standards of development, livelihood improvement and sustainability. He added that relevant projects are conducted through cooperative efforts to ensure sustainability in economic, social, fiscal, financial and environmental sectors, and that China believes that those who have an objective and unbiased view of the BRI can arrive at a right conclusion.
More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. In more news, although the government announced a reduction in import duties on certain essential food items, the new prices are not being followed by traders as yet. The government yesterday removed import duties on essential items such as dal, canned fish, Bombay onions and sugar. Meanwhile, several warehouses were sealed by the Consumer Affairs Authority today following raids conducted in search of hidden paddy stocks as some traders attempt to create an artificial shortage.
In response to the current cost of living and economic difficulties associated with the coronavirus, the government has removed import duties on some essential food items. Accordingly, the price of a large tin of canned fish was reduced to 200 rupees, a kilo of Bombay onions to 100 rupees, and a kilo of sugar to 85 rupees. Customers who purchase goods worth more than 500 rupees, including these essential items from South outlets, will be given the opportunity to buy a kilo of dal at 150 rupees. Meanwhile, we took to the streets to see whether members of the public are benefiting from the price reductions.
ඒකලා 260 තමයි දෙන්නේ අපි කොහොමද 200 දෙන්න කියලා තියෙනවා. ඔව් ඉතින් හම්බ වුණොත් දෙනවා අපිට. එකපාරටම රැට හම්බුන පළියට උදේට දෙන්න බෑනේ නේ. සීනියර් සුපාර දෙන්න බෑ එන්නෙත් නෑනේ. 130යි කොළඹින් එන්නේ. තමන් තියද
සමන් නෑ ඉවරයි.
සීනි 85 දේද?
සීනි 85 නෑ. ලොකුලුත් නෑ. ඔක්කොම සතෝසි තියෙන්නේ. සතෝසි.
ඊයේ බඩු ටික අඩු කරා. දැන් කඩේ බඩු නෑ. රජයෙන් වැඩි කරා නම් බඩු දිනම දැන් බඩු ඔක්කොම අංගලා.
බඩු දින අඩු වුණා. මේ සහනේ එලා දෙන්නේ නැද්ද කඩවල?
කිසිම තැනකින් සහනයක් නෑ නේ. මේ දැම්මම උදේ කීපාරක් කඩේට ගියද? 300 ගානකට කිට්ටුයි ලුණු කිලෝ එක. කීර මිනිහා කනවා බොන්න නැති මිනිහා කොයින්ද කරන්නේ?
Meanwhile, people in several areas complained that the mentioned goods are not available in Satosa outlets at the reduced prices. The chairman of Lanka Satosa, however, says that starting tomorrow these goods will be available at all its outlets at the new prices. Meanwhile, with the removal of import duties on Bombay onions, onion farmers in Polonnaruwa, Bakamuna, Batuhena and Jayasiripura say that they are unable to sell their produce as a result of the move. Accordingly, stocks of Bombay onions being prepared for transportation to the Damul Economic Centre were unloaded from the lorries today.
ගොවියන්ට දෙන්න වෙලා තියෙන රුපියල් 70 පාත මිලකට ලුණු. ඒකට යන්න කියලා පටව ලුණු එක ඊයේ දැන් දාලා ගියා. 109කට පොරොන්දු වෙලා යා කිව්වා මෙහෙම වැට් එක අඩු කරලා මෙහෙමයි ගන්න බෑ කිව්වා. ගමේ තියෙන ලාස 3ක විතර ලුණු කිලෝ. මිලක් තමයි තින් ඉල්ලන්නේ.
Meanwhile, the Coconut Development Board's Kudunagal Plantation Company and the Chilao Plantation Company have increased coconut supplies to Colombo. This will in turn pave the way for customers to purchase coconuts at a reasonable price from Satosa outlets. Meanwhile, operations were launched today in search of traders concealing stocks of paddy with the intent to create a rice shortage in the country. During such an operation, 50,000 kilograms of paddy were found in a private warehouse in the area of Iginivawa Tambuttegama, while more than 70,000 kilos of Nadu and Samba paddy were found in a private warehouse in the Hurigaswewa area in Megalwewa, Anuradhapura. The Consumer Affairs Authority revealed that the stocks of paddy had been hidden for over a year. Steps were taken to seal the warehouses.
During the second day of his testimony to the Easter Commission yesterday, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe stated that he opposed the niqab ban proposed to the National Security Council by the Armed Forces Chief, citing national security threats, as doing so would have alienated the country's moderate Muslims and halted the flow of information on extremists from the community. Meanwhile, former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando in his testimony on the same day told the Commission that former President Maithripala Sirisena bears the giant's share of blame for the disaster and accused him of having known of the attack threat when he flew to Singapore days before.
Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe testified before the Presidential Commission investigating the Easter Sunday attacks for the second day yesterday. At the outset, the Additional Solicitor General at the Commission asked the former Premier whether he attended all National Security Council meetings held during his tenure. Wickremesinghe replied, "On some days I did not attend the meeting because there wasn't a specific day allocated to it as it used to be the case before. We were only informed 24 hours before that the meeting was to be held the next day. In such a situation, it was difficult to change my schedule on short notice. It was important to hold the National Security Council once a week, as was the case with the Economic Committee meetings held by me. I held these meetings on a specific day every week, but the Security Council did not follow such a process." Wickremesinghe was then asked by the Additional Solicitor General, "Did you ever oppose remarks made by Major General Suresh Sully at the National Security Council on Islamic extremism when he was Director of the Army Intelligence Board?" In response, the former Premier stated, "I had no issues with his knowledge. I never responded in the manner that you claim I did. However, I did have concerns over his activities, but I will not speak of these in the presence of the media." Following this statement, the Commission instructed all media personnel to vacate the room. When media personnel were allowed back into the room, the Additional Solicitor General asked Wickremesinghe, "Did you oppose the proposal made by the heads of the armed forces to ban the niqab worn by Muslim women, citing threats to national security?" To this, the former Prime Minister replied, "I did not oppose it because there was no vote on it, but I offered my opinion." General Krishanta de Silva tabled the proposal, claiming that army search operations would be hampered by the wearing of the niqab and saying that it had been banned in France at the time as well. What I said at the time was that although it was banned in France, the United Kingdom had not banned it. I added that if we follow suit, it will only serve to give Islamic extremists a further justification for their efforts and a topic to speak on. Similar moves are what led to the 1983 riots. I also told them that this would alienate the country's moderate Muslims and would halt the flow of information that we receive from the community on extremists. Following this response, the appeals court judge at the commission stated, "You say that you objected to this proposal, citing the halting of information from moderate Muslims. In that case, shouldn't information have been received? When the bombs detonated in 8 locations on 21st April, the only information received by the State Intelligence Service on this attack was from a foreign intelligence source. Wickramasinghe replied, "We did receive information from the traditional moderate Muslim community. I too had heard Zaran's lectures in Tamil from time to time. However, beyond that, it was up to our security forces to investigate them. The fact that India received information that an attack could take place on or before 21st April, but we did not, is solely our own failure." The chairman of the commission then stated, "Some people had informed the police that Zaran was conducting extremist lectures in Norelia. Further, Zaran was also present when the police went to the location to investigate, but no arrests were made." The former premier replied, "That is what I mean when I say that this was our own shortcoming." To this, the Court of Appeal judge at the commission then asked the former Prime Minister, Rauf Hakim stated before this commission that he first came to know about Zaran from a video forwarded to him by your wife. "Are you aware of this?" Wickramasinghe responded, "She showed it to me as well, and because it was in Tamil, I understood it to a certain extent. I was the one who instructed her to send it to Rauf to look into it. I knew that he was part of the political system in the Eastern Province." Following this, the attorney representing the Archbishop of Colombo, President's Counsel Shamil Pereira, played a recording of an interview given by the former Prime Minister to international news network CNN and asked him, "Did you in this interview state that despite some of the bombers having been infiltrated by the intelligence services, there was insufficient evidence to arrest them?" The ex-premier replied, "Yes. Some suspects with ISIS connections had links with our intelligence services." The chairman of the commission then asked the former premier, "Did you also mention in that interview that the day before the attack, Sinwan grand attacker Mohammad Ibrahim Ilham Ahmad was arrested by the security forces and later released?" To this, media personnel were once again asked to vacate the room after Wickramasinghe stated that he was not prepared to respond to the question in their presence. Meanwhile, former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando was cross-examined by legal representatives of the other respondents. The attorney representing the Archbishop of Colombo, President's Counsel Shamil Pereira, asked the former Defence Secretary to explain the difference between the Intelligence Coordination Meeting and the National Security Council. Fernando replied, "Intelligence information is discussed at the Intelligence Coordination Meeting, but the decisions are made by the National Security Council." The then Director of the State Intelligence Service, Nilantha Jayawardena, had a system of informing the President on a daily basis about intelligence and political information in the country. We had agreed that the Defence Secretary would not inform the President about intelligence. During my tenure as Defence Secretary, not once did President Sirisena ask me why I did not brief him on intelligence. This was because he was fully aware of this arrangement. The former President says that he issued orders at the National Security Council to arrest Zaran, but neither I nor the IGP were given such orders by him. Maybe he ordered someone else to do that. I do not under any circumstances accept that Nilantha Jayawardena did not provide this information to the then President Maithripala Sirisena. The President should bear the maximum responsibility for not preventing this attack because he failed to provide political leadership during that time. He left the country even though he knew that an attack was going to happen. Meanwhile, former President Maithripala Sirisena arrived at the Easter Commission this afternoon for his third day of testimony.
Welcome back. In more news, 6 criminal investigation department teams have been deployed to arrest former Minister Rishad Badiuddin, but have failed to locate him at either of his residences. However, one of the co-accused, the accountant of an IDP project under the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, headed by then Minister Badiuddin, was arrested today in Kirulapana and remanded until the 26th of this month. Meanwhile, 2 drivers of the parliamentarian were arrested with several weapons and 2 vehicles.
The Attorney General yesterday instructed the acting IGP to arrest parliamentarian Rishad Badiuddin on charges of misappropriating a sum of more than 9.5 million rupees from an IDP project of the Ministry of Industry and Commerce to pay for Sri Lanka Transport Board buses to transport internally displaced persons to polling stations at last year's presidential election. Furthermore, the IGP was also instructed to arrest the director of the ministry's IDP project, Mohammad Yasim, and his accountant, Alagaratnam Manoranjan. Accordingly, 6 police teams were deployed to arrest the suspects. However, MP Badiuddin was yet to be located after searches of his residences in Colombo 7, Puttalam and Mana by the teams. In the meantime, the CID was able to arrest the IDP project accountant Alagaratnam Manoranjan today in Kirulapana. Further, a constable attached to Badiuddin's security was also taken into custody in Wellapatta by the CID yesterday on charges of aiding the parliamentarian in evading arrest.
ප්‍රභූවරයා යම්කිසි සැකකරුවෙක් ඇටියට නම් කර ඇති අවස්ථාවක පොලිස් නිලධාරියෙක්ගේ රාජකාරිය ඔහු ඉටු කර තිබිය යුතුයි. ඉතින් එසේ ඉටු නොකිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ලංකා දණ්ඩ නීති සංග්‍රහයේ 209 වගන්තිය යටතේ වරදක් කිරීමට අදාළවයි ඔහු අත්අඩංගුවට ගනු ලැබුවේ.
What's more, 2 drivers of the parliamentarian were arrested yesterday and 2 vehicles were also seized in Velavatta.
එම මෝටර් රථ දෙකෙහි තිබී සොයාගනු ලැබුවා ගිනිඅවි දෙකක් පිස්තෝල දෙකක් ඒ වගේම මැගසින් 4ක් සහ පතරොන් 48ක් මෙම වාහන දෙක පැදවූ රියදුරන් දෙදෙනා ඔවුන් පුත්තලම ප්‍රදේශයේ පදිංචිකරුවන් දෙදෙනෙක් ඔවුන් දෙදෙනාත් මේ වන විට අත්අඩංගුවට ගෙන තිබෙනවා මේ ගිනිඅවි දෙක කුමන ආයතනයකට අයිතිද මොනවද මේ ගිනිඅවි දෙක කාට නිකුත් කරපුවාද ඒ ගැන විමර්ශනයක් ආරම්භ කරලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, all arrested suspects were produced before the Fourth Magistrates Court today. The Fourth Magistrate ordered one of the main suspects, accountant Alagratna Manoranjan, to be remanded until the 26th of this month. Furthermore, the police constable who was arrested on charges of aiding MP Batiuddin to evade arrest was released on a surety bail of 500,000 rupees. What's more, the magistrate ordered the 2 drivers of the parliamentarian to be remanded until 28th October. The Fourth Magistrate also slapped the travel ban on MP Batiuddin, as well as IDP Project Director Mohammad Yassim. In a separate development, 60 CID officers have been deployed to probe the release of Riyaj Batiuddin and the allegations levelled against him for aiding and abetting the Easter Sunday bombers.
මේ විශේෂ කරුණු 7 සම්බන්ධයෙන් විමර්ශනය කිරීමට අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ නියෝජ්‍ය පොලිස්පති වරයාගේ අධීක්ෂණයේ යටතේ ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨ පොලිස් අධිකාරිවරු දෙදෙනෙක් සහකාර පොලිස් අධිකාරිවරුන් එක්කෙනෙක් සහ තවත් පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් 60ක් කණ්ඩායම් දෙකක් හැටියට යොදවලා පරීක්ෂණ පවත්වනු ලබනවා. එම කාරණා 7න් කරුණු 4ක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් එක් විමර්ශන කණ්ඩායමකටත් අනිත් කරුණු 3 සම්බන්ධයෙන් තමත් විමර්ශන කණ්ඩායමකටත් තමයි බාර දී තිබෙන්නේ. ඒ නිලධාරීන් 60 බෙදලා තියෙන්නේ එක් කණ්ඩායමකට 30ක් අනිත් කණ්ඩායමකට 30ක් හැටියට. මේ සියල්ල සඳහා යොදවා තිබෙන්නේ අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ ඒ ක්ෂේත්‍රවල නිපුණත්වයක් තියෙන ඉතා සුදුසු අපරාධ විමර්ශනය වගේම මූල්‍ය අපරාධ විමර්ශනය පිළිබඳව විශිෂ්ට විමර්ශන සිදු කරලා තියෙන ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨ පොලිස් අධිකාරිවරු දෙදෙනෙක්.
With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanella Fernando. Have a good night.